Oh, welcome, ladies, gentlemen. Here we are, YouTube live. I haven't done a live in a little while, so if this is choppy, if there's issues, you're going to have to let me know. But today I'm just going to give you guys some general life updates and what I'm doing and how I'm doing because I keep joking about how the stress of insanity of God, they're just talking to accountants and lawyers and tax crap, and it never seems to end right now. But more importantly, guys, things are pretty good stock wise. I mean, let's be real here. I'm hoping some of you aren't too on the speculative side because I mean, when you look at the trends right now, we were talking about this with a meeting we had today about how we're in this cyclical sell-off where all of a sudden if you go on Google Trends and you look up stock market investing or best stocks or growth stocks or even dividend stocks, there is a massive decline going on right now. And that's obviously because everybody's losing money. And when money, starts becoming harder and harder to make, you get less and less viewers. It's just a reality. If you go on any YouTuber's YouTube channel right now, you've probably seen a cyclical decline in their viewer base. I mean, I've seen it on my YouTube channel for sure. But I want to give you guys a quick little life update about where I'm at mentally and exactly what I'm doing with my six-figure portfolio because I'm in a transitional period I never thought I would end up doing. But as we've discussed, as you learn new tools, you start looking at your portfolio through a different lens. And the lens that I have been looking at my portfolio through is through the idea of a corporation because as our businesses have vertically scaled and we've done a lot of awesome meetings that I can talk about a little bit. I don't want to get too in depth, but we've been nailing some pretty insane contracts with the new businesses that myself and Matt Money have started, which is super awesome. Super grateful. But ideally, the big problem right now is every single dollar I make, whether it's from a trade, whether it's from my business or whatever, every time it hits my hand, I get tax implications. And when I get these tax implications, guys, it in the beginning, it's not a big deal because you're like, well, what am I going to make? Like maybe 30,000, 40, 50 if I'm lucky after the expenses. But we're at a level right now where I'm making 10, 20, $30,000 a month. And I am utterly terrified right now to look at my income for this month. So I am integrating everything I do through a corporate account. So basically, my taxes are going to get cut in half. I can day trade any stock I want. I can make all the money in the world. And literally, until I make $500,000, the government's barely going to tap it. And I can just simply pay myself a $40,000 a year salary. Now, this has changed my entire portfolio setup. And I have been on the phone nonstop all day for the last 2 days. And it has been a headache trying to post videos because I managed to post a video yesterday at like midnight. And today I was like, damn it, I wanted to post a video and I haven't had time. So I'm going to do a live stream instead. I am actually vertically integrating everything I'm doing into a website for you guys as well. So if you live in Canada and you don't want to go through the bullshit that I just went through trying to open up a corporation, because nobody teaches you this. It really costs a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. Like it could cost thousands of dollars. I've managed to do it for less than 1,000. And I've been using accountants. I have been on the government CRA website. I've been talking to them. And it's literally a lot. It's a lot more than I could have ever anticipated. I thought it was going to be easy. It is not easy opening a corporation. It sucks. It really, really sucks. But for the benefits, you got to do it. You just got to. So maybe I'm going to put an integrated course together to help people out. And my accountant said he'll be affiliated for me because I've sent him so much work because people have asked me who I use and they've gone down that path as well. Questions though, guys. We can talk about stocks here and a lot of other stuff. There's the video that I'm looking forward to making hopefully tomorrow. Somebody is selling a business, a really relatively sustained known business. I don't want to say what it is just yet until I drop my video, but somebody is selling a real corporation. They are trying to make millions of dollars by selling their business through an NFT. And I hate their business. I want to do a video on it because I think it's a really interesting concept. If you're into the business realm of buying and selling businesses, because basically these guys are going to avoid tax. They're trying to pocket a couple million, but the business is cash flowing negatively. I think it's costing them $15,000 a month. It's a real interesting thing. I've never seen anything like it. It's totally worth an individual video. I'm not going to spoil that just yet, though. Kyle, making me choose between an early live vid and a Fraser returns. Hey, you don't have to stick around. You can come watch this live stream later, of course. What's your thoughts on Arcg and Arcg after the big dip? Yeah, I'm having a torn relationship with the Arc Innovation ETFs. We just saw the release literally today of ArcX, or Is today Wednesday or Tuesday? When did Arcx drop? I think was it yesterday? No, it was today. What am I thinking? Arcx dropped today, guys. That's the space ETF. And I was really disappointed with that. Actually, let me talk about the Space Innovation Fund first, and then I'll touch base on Arcg and Arcg. Yeah, this Space Innovation Fund was a huge letdown. Everybody that was so hyped for space stocks, they've been looking at things like Virgin Galactic, and they've been looking at things like Momentous and Rocket Labs, and obviously Kathy's not going to be buying SPACs. I think she has actually. I could be wrong. I think there might be one SPAC actually in that ETF. I could be wrong. I don't quote me on that actually, but it's not. I could own those companies. I don't need to own ArcX, guys. Like the top holdings, you got things in there like Lockheed Martin, like BABA, JD.com, companies you would have never thought are involved in space innovation. And you very likely already own them if you own any regular ETF. So it's like, I was really let down by their holdings. So I'm not a fan of it. I'm hoping it evolves into something more space pure play because I feel like if I took $5,000, I could put a better space ETF together than Kathy's got. If we're talking about like real space companies that are like pure plays, because there's not a lot. They're far and few in between. Highly risky, obviously, but what are you going to do about it? How much of your percentage is in REITs? Let me finish up with the Arcg and Arcg, and then we'll talk about some REITs if you'd like. Arcg and Arcg to me, I think they're at a great buy point right now. I've been actually thinking about buying Tesla back. I own both of them. I'm trying to shift my growth into my new business account. I'll talk more about that later. Yeah, if you guys are looking, this is so funny to me. How because when things fall off a cliff, like really fall off a cliff, like the ARC Innovation Fund, like SPACs, like most growth stocks have right now. How because everybody is so petrified to buy them? Maybe because we already own them and we're down huge on our position. But guys, this is like the buying time of an opportunity. Like this is the opportunity. Like if you've got money to spend and you're looking at Tesla and you're looking at ARC or you're looking at any of these, guys, like do you need more than a 30 or 40% dip before you'll finally dip your toes in? I mean, like this is your opportunity, right? I personally like my dividend stock, so I try and mitigate my growth as much as possible because I like REITs, as Carl's mentioned here. My percentage of REITs is rather large. For me, I think it's rather large. I think I have about I got 12% of my entire portfolio sitting in RioCan, which is a lot. Like that is astronomical to me, and it would put me on edge if owned real estate. I don't own any real estate in the real world, like physical real estate. So I mean, I don't to me, it's just like a huge cash flowing properties that I really understand. They're in my backyard. To me, I feel it's appropriate to have about 10 to 15% in RioCan just because I understand it and I don't own real estate anyways. And again, RioCan guys, I don't recommend you buy it. I don't buy the REITs that I buy. I just buy them because I think they work for me. So between RioCan, which makes up 12% of my portfolio, I really like Stag Industrial. Like I really like Stag. I know a lot of people push into like the what is it dream like, there's a few REITs right now that are highly involved in obviously cloud computing and cloud softwaring, and like they're just basically like storage factories for computers, and they've done really well, but they usually don't pay high yields. They're more growth related, and a lot of REITs are trying to vertically integrate right now. Like I know what's it called what's the mountain secure company that God, I hate that I can't remember their name. There's a company that basically is just a storage REIT. They're very famous already. They used to store like valuable things locked in a mountain. What the hell is it called? I can't remember. But anyways, they're involved in getting into obviously data centers as well. And yeah, I don't care about that stuff. The only two things I care about is the real estate in my backyard. I understand it very well, and logistics. If you know anything about shipping and Amazon, God, it is so hard to be bearish on logistics. Logistics centers, like go look at like Dream Industrial. That's a Canadian one. I won't own that one, however, because it's not diversified. Um, Dream Industrial has done phenomenally well in Canada because it's an industrial REIT. But the problem is I think 30% of their tenant basis, like literally 30% of their income comes from Magna. And Magna, I don't understand well enough to be comfortable to have 30% of the entire company's revenue come from that. Whereas with Stag Industrial, their largest tenant is Amazon, and Amazon only makes up 3% of their total clients or their income basis, their revenue generation. So I'm like, Hell, if Amazon's the biggest client and it's only 3%, I'm on board, because it's only uphill from here. I mean, what a great company Stag Industrial is. Other than they do a lot of share dilution. If you want to understand how REITs work in a really interesting manner, most people don't understand, like, how do REITs continue? If REITs are paying out the majority of their cash flow to shareholders, how do they raise money to buy more properties? They do one of two things. They either sell properties at a premium and they pocket that money, and instead of paying it out in a dividend, they redivest it, or they do share dilution. If you go look at the dilution of Stag Industrial over time, it looks heartbreaking. But when you understand how fast that company is growing and how they're doing things, oh god, what an incredible company! I mean, I love Stag. I love it over O Realty. Honestly, it's one of my favorite U.S. REITs right now. Um, what else we got here, guys? Like the video, so does I know we got a MindMed question in here, guys. MindMed. Oh god, when it comes to MindMed, when it comes to Momentous, SRAC, when it comes to any speculative investment I have ever bought, people make it out like I'm some kind of like Forbes genius or something, because I got a really good win streak. I mean, I caught Tesla, I caught MindMed, and like I don't buy a lot of speculative investments. So the very few speculations I took were literally some of the best performing speculative bets you could have made all of 2020. However, However, I did not know that was going to happen. I I did not. I could have picked any other company and did just fine. But like people just keep thinking for some reason, because my med went through the moon, that I was a genius. And I'm like, yo, like, how the hell was I supposed to know that was going to happen? I literally, every single person that came up to me and bought my med because I talked about it, I literally looked at them and I said, look, this thing has a higher likelihood of going to zero before it makes you any money. And then it ran through the fucking ceiling, and everybody's like, oh my God, I got to get in. I got to get it. It's like, guys, the value hasn't changed. MindMed is still worth zero. Well, I guess they're worth $200 million, but because that's the cash they have in the bank. If they had to liquidate their business, it's worth $200 million in cash, but they don't make anything. They have no value. Like, guys, the stock price means nothing. The stock price doesn't matter at all. Look, if you're buying MindMed today, I'm going to tell you one of two things that's going to happen. This is why I don't believe what Kevin O'Leary says. Kevin O'Leary is like, it's a binary outcome. It's either going to be worth nothing or it's going to be worth billions. And it's like, yeah, I could see how you think that. But in my opinion, there's one bet you're making with MindMed. If you're buying MindMed right now, you're presuming in the next 3 to 5 years, one thing is going to happen. And that is their phase trials that they're working on right now are going to show success. If they do, and I highly believe that they will, the stock price will literally 1 to 500x. That is what pharmaceutical companies do. I can show you a dozen examples of pharma companies. Usually, what happens is they run up slowly and they're really jittery leading into those phase trials. Once they get through phase trials, if there is success, who cares if it actually works out? I mean, no, honestly, guys, my biggest fear with MyMed right now is the government's just going to open source the entire drug segment, and you don't need FDA approval. You'll just need to go through regulatory manufacturing rules and regulations, like we've seen with the MJ market, right? And if that happens, and it is happening, it's happening in Canada. There are companies that are legally allowed to distribute these psychedelics right now without FDA approval in life and death circumstance in certain hospital situations. So you already don't need FDA approval. That's a scary thing to me, but who cares? The idea is you just got to hold on to MyMed for 3 years, let them get through one phase trial. If you believe the drugs are as revolutionary as I do, you're going to make a lot of money. You just got to be patient. But waiting from now until then, the stock price has no value. So whether it goes up 500% or drops 500%, guys, why are you holding it? I mean, there's no value to the stock. That is most spec stocks. That's what people don't understand. I don't know what the stock price does. I can make calculated predictions. And if I believe the odds are ever in my favor, then how do you lose? Well, you lose because you have paper hands. I, however, hold no MindMed right now. And that's not to deter anybody from owning the stock. I am going through a very fortunate transitional period with my business, and I sold off almost all my speculative bets. I took a lot of profit, and I want to buy them back. I really do. And I'm just waiting for this moment. And I don't care if I pay a premium to do it. I really don't. Because these stocks have no value. How do you guys value companies? Are you looking at stock price fluctuations, or are you looking at fundamentals? I mean, I swear most people look at fundamentals. I wish most people looked at fundamentals, but they don't. You really know people don't look at fundamentals in a situation like this. I mean, everybody is selling at a spec. Everyone's become paper hands. They just became paper hands too late. I'm sorry. I told people to take profits. They didn't listen. If they didn't listen and you're holding on to MindMed, you better be in it for the long, or at least the 3 to 5. 3 to 5 years. That's my bet. 3 to 5 years. My med could likely be a $10 billion company for no reason other than those drugs are going to have phenomenal life changing outcomes on paper. That's all you need. Short-term voting machine. Yeah, it's just it. It's a short-term voting machine. Nobody's actually valuing these companies for what they're worth. Like, here's a good example too. Like, I'm constantly trying to think to myself, were we in a bubble? Are we in a secular rotation right now, or did we just witness the bursting of the speculative bubble? Because the S&P 500 is still trading up just around 7%. I think it finished the day at 6.8% on the year. When you go look at companies like SoFi, which are going to merge through the SPAC IPOE, and like when you look at these companies and you try and value them, you're like, okay, like what are the companies generating today? What am I paying for it? Well, you're always paying a stupid huge premium. I mean, when you look at SPACs specifically, like they're already valued at their most premium rate. So when you're looking at something like a CCIV, like a Lucid Motors, and you're watching those SPACs run up literally like 300%. You have to imagine when that deal was made, it was already made at the max value that company was perceived by banks. Because people don't understand, SPACs are done through an auction almost. So you're Lucid Motors. You want to raise capital, you go to the bank. You say, hey, we need money. What are our vehicles? Well, we can go through the public market. We can go through the SPAC market. And they're like, okay, we need to fast track this. Let's do the SPAC market. Okay, we're going to put it out there to all the SPAC companies that are raising capital that here's Lucid, here's what they're trying to do. All those companies now make bids on buying into that SPAC and merging with them. Whoever wins that battle ends up buying basically the merger, right? Like they successfully won the merger, and now they're going to take a huge commission. They're going to take all this money they raised that they bid that had this bidding war on, and they're going to shuffle it over to IPOE. They're going to shuffle it over to Lucid Motors, right? So once that happens, guys, you have officially paid the max premium price for that company at the SPAC valuation of $10. So when you watch Lucid Motors run up to 20, 30, $40, you are now paying 3 times what the bank valued that company for. So it's like when you're watching this burst in value, some of these companies are going to come out and thrive. I think IPOE guys, SoFi, incredible company. I honestly believe they could become one of the dominating financial companies if they can keep on the path they're going. But the projections right now, I think in 2021, they're only projected to do like $20 million in revenue. The company's valuation is 20 billion. So it's like, holy shit, they're so far out from their projections. But again, you look at the growth rate, you look at where they're going to be in 5 years, and just like Tesla, if things work out, holy shit, it's actually trading at a discount. So it's like I don't know where we're at right now in this cyclical cycle of things, but I'm it's either a great rotation of capital or we just saw a massive burst in speculative investments. But again, Bitcoin didn't burst. So that says a lot about Bitcoin too. I mean, I really thought Bitcoin would fall off a cliff at some point, but I think the way people think about it is different than the way they think about an asset like a stock. So anyways, let's put that aside because you guys can think about what you want. I think this is a great buying opportunity for your favorite SPAC if you want to get into a speculative investment. However, anyways, where are we going here? Short-term voting machine. Do you think Nasdaq will fall any farther, guys? I don't know. I'd be buying the Nasdaq. I mean, I'd always be buying it. If you're under the age of 30, you shouldn't care about stock price, in my humble opinion. If you're under the age of 30, you're just starting to save money now. Guys, just pile all the money you can. Who cares about what the price is? When you're under the age of 30, time in the market is 10 times more valuable to you than timing the market. And if you think you're going to time the NASDAQ, I mean, that's just stupidity. Just buy it. Just buy it on the dips. I bought all time highs. I'm going to keep buying it. I'm going to continually buy it. I mean, you got to understand, like, it bothers me a lot that some guy with $10,000 right now, that's all he has in the market. He's like, oh God, I need to be worried. I need to be worried. It's like if 10 grand drops 50% tomorrow, is that going to change your life? I mean, losing $5,000 over the spectrum of 20 or 30 years, is that going to change your life? I mean, especially when you start realizing exponential rates of return. I mean, guys, like it becomes incremental. Like, who cares? Just keep buying. Just keep buying. You're going to be buying for the next 20 years. Who cares? I bought 130. Should I cut a loss and buy any at a dip? You bought Apple at a buck 30. I like Apple. I thought I should sell it every guys. Apple is the only company in the world I would never bet against. And anybody that has so far has lost miserably. What are your thoughts on the Canadian MJ stocks, in particular High Tide? I don't know anything about High Tide. I don't like actually I got approached for a private deal by a company that's been acquiring dispensaries, and it's a really intriguing prospect because I don't like the MJ companies. They're too competitive. But right now, there's still a very limited amount of dispensaries that are building footholds. And I'm sure you guys have seen this, especially if you live in Canada or Toronto and you've seen these dispensaries. There are lineups out the door. Like it's staggering at the lineups that are outside of these places, and they have to be so insanely profitable if you get the right location. So I don't want to talk about the company specifically. I didn't sign a non-disclosure. Maybe I can. Well, anyways, the company, you can look into it. I think it's called 420, but I think it's four as in the letter four, FOUR 20. That's one of the companies, but it's trying to merge, and these people are trying to acquire, I think, like 3 to 5 dispensaries, and they want to sell them to a bigger company. And I got approached by this company privately because they're looking for investors. And they're trying to raise about $25,000 a minimum per investor. And I was like, yo, this is a good idea. Like, it's a good market. I don't like MJ stocks personally. If it's your trade, go for it. But I come back to the same conclusion. I always come back to the same conclusion. Anybody can grow MJ products. It's not illegal. Anybody can do it. I've done it. I'm sure you have a friend that does it. It's way cheaper. And even if you don't, you always go to the cheapest supplier, which might not be Canopy. It might not be whatever. And there's so many products and so many growers. And God, it's such a competitive market that, like, I don't want to compete. I want to go to a market where there's no competition, high margin, high rates of return. And in the MJ market, where do you see that right now? Where do you see high margins, high growth, and high returns? You don't see it from Canopy. I mean, Free has been doing okay. Kron has been growing their revenues, but they're not doing what I would expect them to be doing. Now, here's an example. Go look at Grow Generation. Go look at Scott's Miracle Grow. Scott's Miracle Grow paid a 5% special dividend last year. Do you want to know why? Because they're selling dirt and they're selling hydroponics to growers. How many dirt companies do you think are out there right now selling Miracle Grow to Canopy Growth Corp? I bet you there's only one, because I live on a farm. I use Scott's Miracle Grow products, and there is not a lot of competition in the dirt market. So it's like, holy shit. Like, it's like selling shovels to the gold miners, right? Like, it's like selling picks to the miners. The miners aren't always guaranteed to find gold, but the guy selling the pick is guaranteed that cash flow. So, and it's a high margin business. So, I mean, it's a great analogy in my opinion. And it's my biggest regret, actually. My number one biggest regret in my entire investing career was not buying Scott's Miracle Grow. I recognized Scott's Miracle Grow for what it was, and I told everybody, don't buy Canopy, buy Scott's. And I don't know how many people even listened, but it's a really safe play. It's a dividend play, and you'd be up like 400 or 500% if you bought it when I was spouting it 2 or 3 years ago. What a great company! What a great company! But yeah, if you're into the MJ market, I mean, and you know what you're doing, buy them. I mean, if there's an MJ stock like High Tide and you believe in it, buy it by all means. Now, don't let me hold you back. I mean, there could be a great company. I don't look into it as much as I used to. Um, Not everyone can build a successful brand and experience. That's why Planet 13 is Planet 13. Like, I have a problem with their expansion rate. Like, they have a great business and a great but to me, Planet 13, it's done so well, but it's done so well off one market. Like, Planet 13 only proved themselves out in Vegas. So my biggest fear, and like excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting some like burping going on here. There's no cuts or edits here. This is live, baby. Um, yeah, so I honestly don't like Planet 13 as much as everybody else does, because people just think because they did so well in Vegas, that gives them the opportune right that they're going to do well in Orlando. They're going to do well in New York. Like, they're trying to scale their branding into all these different markets. But if you already go to your local smoke shop and you're already going to a place in New York or Orlando, why, like, can Planet 13 really dominate a market that well? I mean, they did great in Vegas. That doesn't mean they're going to do well everywhere else. And that's what concerns me, right? And everybody is like, oh, they're so great. Look at how well they do in Vegas. It's like, yeah, but that's Vegas. That's not Orlando. So tell me when their shops are up and running in Orlando. And yeah, I'm going to miss that rise if it works out. But guys, Scott's Miracle Grow is a guaranteed cash flow machine. Or, I mean, Planet 13 is a retail distributor. And retail is a scary business. Retail has always been a scary business. What's a good entry on Facebook right now? I would buy Facebook anything under 300. If you caught Facebook at 250, great. Guys, Facebook is the most undervalued S&P top 10 company. It is going to be the great. We were just talking about this yesterday, actually. Go look at the. It makes me laugh. It's insane. It's honestly insane. Don't even look at Facebook's numbers. You want to be impressed? Go look at the earnings expectations for 2020 every quarter for Facebook. Facebook beat the earnings expectations through 2020 by like 30% every quarter. I think there was one quarter where they met expectations, but then they beat by 30, they beat by 20. It's like, could you imagine beating earnings expectations, what analysts expect by 30% on a company that has a forward PE of like 18? Like, like guys, Facebook is the path of least resistance to money, in my humble opinion. I literally use Facebook right now as part of my savings account. I literally look at it as a savings account. I'm like, if you're just parking cash and you don't care about dividends or cash flow, guys, you're not really. Yeah, I know the PE is 28, but when you're talking about okay, guys, this is how you know Facebook is undervalued. You look at the PE and you're like, oh my god, it's 28. That's like every other tech company. That's really high. When their revenues are growing by 30%, how many years does it take for that PE to go to zero? No, how long does it take? If you're growing revenues at a 30% clip, how long does it take to go from a 28%, a 28 PE to a zero? 3, 4 years? How many companies can honestly say that right now that are sitting in the S&P top 10? Zero. Maybe Amazon if they decided to put some bottom line EPS to their margins, but there is zero, including Apple, cannot say that. Apple is not growing revenue at a 30% clip. There is no company on the S&P that's doing that right now. Great business. Great business Facebook is. I love it. I just come back to me in 5 years and tell me it was a mistake buying Facebook. Gold and silver tanking. Is it? I haven't, I wish I was on StreamYard and I could pull up the gold and silver prices. I'm actually kind of curious now. Gold and silver. I have some actually sitting here. I don't own a lot of it. I'm not a fan of it personally either. I'd rather buy Bitcoin right now. Bit Bitcoin is what gold wishes it could have been. If gold could just have the transaction value Bitcoin does, oh my god, gold would be it would be worth so much more. What do you think but then again, I guess gold has a lot higher market cap. I think gold's worth 7 trillion. You know what's crazy? If you're a bear on Bitcoin, I mean, just think about this. Bitcoin is now worth more than the Canadian currency valuation. I think the Canadian currency valuation is just around 1.04 trillion or something like that. Bitcoin just surpassed the valuation of Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar. That's so crazy. Like to wrap your head around that is so it's really hard to fathom. Lord Buffett likes tendies. Yeah, Buffett's a big tendy guy for sure. Everyone likes their tendies. I like my tendies too. I just like it through dividends. What do you think an all-in-one funds from Vanguard and Aisha? Okay, guys, I'm about to break your brain. I'm about to tell you the only thing you'll ever need to hear in investing, and I can literally make it so you can walk away from your computer and never look at the stock market again. And I know this is redundant. I was just talking to Matt before I did this stream, and we were having the same discussion because I'm like, if you look at the performance of your portfolio, you've been investing, let's say, for 5 years, okay? Go look at the performance of your portfolio. If you are underperforming the S&P 500 right now, it is time to liquidate all of your stocks and put it in VTI or VOO because that is the benchmark that 98% of fund managers are losing against right now. And you've been told a lie for the last 10 years. You've been told that the S&P only goes up 10%, and then after inflation, you're only making 8%. Guys, the S&P 500 has been going up over 20% for the last 10 years. If your portfolio is not going up over 20% in the last 10 years, you are doing something wrong. I was just looking at my performance, and my TFSA is up 130% in the last since 2017. The S&P 500 I think is only up 58% in the same time period. So I am outperforming the S&P 500 by 50% on my worst performing account. So I always told myself, for as long as I'm able to outperform the S&P 500, I am going to try and avoid buying index funds. However, I am not going to belittle the fact that a 20% return is insane. A 20% return, guys, if you have $100,000 and you make a 20% return a year, that is $100,000. You want to talk about financial independence, retire early? If the market sustains this growth rate, you are going to be able to retire off a couple $100,000 in the safest, most benchmark investment that every investor feeds you from day one, including Warren Buffett. Even Warren Buffett says, why try buy individual stocks? Just buy an index. That's all you need to do. And that's the reality of it. However, I have like OCD problems and I'm ADHD or some shit. And I have to have my fingers in everything. Like I'm so ADHD, it's not even funny. That's why I'm like, ugh, I want to blow my brains out right now, metaphorically, not literally, just because like from morning till night, I've been on the phone. It's been crazy, guys. I mean, I should be paying literally thousands of dollars to somebody, to lawyers and accountants and all this shit for what I'm trying to do on my own. For what I'm trying to do on my own, I don't wish it on anybody. I hate it, but the value that I'm going to get out of it is so insane to me, and I'm like, I just don't know why no one else is doing it. Oh yeah, because it's hard. It's really really hard. But that's why you guys have me, because I teach you all this literally for free. I'm not even charging you for some of this shit. I should be. I spiel too much. I have diarrhea of the mouth. What do they say? Loose lips sink ships. That's me. Because I'm such an open, honest dude. I'll tell you anything you want. You want help setting up a corporation? Hey, send me a message. I'll help you out. I'm a nice guy like that because I believe in building bridges. If I help you, you're going to help me, right? That's what I told Matt. I'm like, me and Matt, we make a lot of money together. And I'm like, look, like, I don't want to be greedy because I know if you do well, I do well. And it would be short minded or short sighted in the near term to think, hey, I don't need you because I could just do this on my own and we're not going to get ahead working together. That's ignorant. Like you have to see the value in others. And sometimes, you know, you're going to give 100 people something for free and they're not going to give a shit. But that one person that gives a shit is going to change your life. And people just don't understand that. I mean, I've watched Grant Cardone talk a lot about this too. You need to give 10 times the value, ask in return. If you can ask for 10 times the value in return, you're going to do well in life. You're always going to do well. Yeah, the ADHD gang. I mean, think about it, guys. I posted a video every day for almost 2 years straight, along with doing all this other shit in my life. It's crazy. It is crazy that I managed to keep up with posting a video a day for 2 years while also doing all this other stuff. I mean, it's honestly, I impress myself, not to be cocky or arrogant. You never know where you're going and you don't really know what you're doing. And you're kind of just putting little bricks in the wall and you're trying to build a house. And one day, you know, you look back and you're like, holy shit, I built a house. And then you're like, and this is just right now. Imagine like 10 years from now, what this house is going to look like, adding these little bricks every day. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. Burnout. That's a question I've had a lot, actually. I look at some older influencers and they say they start burning out in their mid 30s. Um, Let me tell you why I'm not burning out, because everything that I do, I have this realization that once I've done it, it's done forever. So I'm only 28 years old. And when I look at my age, I look at my energy and I look at what I'm doing and I try and work out, I try and stay healthy. I realize that if I can just jam the most amount of energy and time into this for the next 5 years as possible, at the end of this rope, I can walk away from this and it'll forever in perpetuity be generating income with very little maintenance. I don't have to do 10 things right now. I could literally just run my YouTube channel and the websites I have and make a successful income. I mean, we're generating 10 to $30,000 a month. Like it's stupid money. And I mean, I could stop and take a breath, but why? Why would I want to do that when I can perpetuate this and just see where it ends? Like, I don't know. It's annoying. It's the fallacy of wanting to sit on a beach. It's just like at any point in time, anyone could stop. Meet Kevin, he could stop. Graham Stephan, he could stop. Kevin O'Leary, he could stop. Mark Cuban. Why the hell is Mark Cuban even on CNBC at this point? Because I don't know what it is, guys. Like when you just I don't know how to explain it. If you're an entrepreneur, you just can't shut that off. It's like an addiction. Like I always look at economics as a game. It's always a game to me. And eventually I think everybody realizes this. It's not real. Like it could all blow up in my face and then I could return to a job. I mean, at the end of the day, everything could blow up. Guys, it's life. Nothing is serious in life. Eventually we're all going to die. Okay. I'm sorry. It's a fact of reality. Okay. If you don't enjoy investing, don't do what I do. It's stupid. Don't pour hours and decades into what I'm doing. It's dumb. It's so stupid. Like you could enjoy having a family and just work a modest life and still retire with millions of dollars. Don't do what I'm doing. It's insane. I love it. I love it to my bitter core because like I said, I grew up being a magician. I was a full-time magician for a decade. And the reason I loved magic so much was because to me, it was a game of trying to figure things out and understand the psychology of this kind of art. Same thing with stocks. Stocks is a game. It's a psychological game. Stocks is not an investing game. It's a psychological game. If you are investing in stocks and you're playing the game of money, let me just reiterate the reality here, guys. There's two kinds of people that exist: people that want to play the game and people that don't want to play the game. If you don't want to play the game, don't even waste your time trying. You're never going to get ahead. If you want to play the game, you're going to be going down a rabbit hole. And that rabbit hole gets really convoluted really fast because then you start seeing the matrix. And when I talk about the matrix, I mean, you start realizing that money is a fiat. It's an idea. It's an investment. Currency doesn't have real value. And it's a shame because you guys in the US, and I don't mean to be ignorant to you guys, but like everybody that lives in the US lives in this really confined bubble and they don't want to accept what goes on around them. They just don't. And it bothers me a lot. Now, not everybody is that ignorant in the US, but for some reason in the US, you all live in a little bubble. You don't want to look at what goes on in China. You don't want to travel across the sea. You don't want to realize every Canadian has to convert currency to deal with you guys down in the US. Like you guys don't even, when was the last time you looked at the value of your own dollar, for Christ's sakes? I mean, I look at the US dollar almost every other day because I'm converting it to Bitcoin. I'm converting CAD to USD. I'm converting USD to CAD. I am always looking at the grand scope of how these countries are operating their currencies, guys. And you guys don't even realize that, like, you have no control. Like, you literally, like, it literally blows my mind that if you had $1 million in cash in 2020, you literally didn't get to vote. You didn't get to have a say, and you didn't even know it happened. But the Federal Reserve devalued your net worth by 10% in 2020. In 2020, your net worth dropped by 10%, and you didn't even know it happened because most of you don't even fucking pay attention. So it's like, don't play the game unless you're willing to play the game. And the game is not easy, guys, because it involves everything. It is this congruent mess. It is this organized chaos, and nobody really knows what's going on. Do you think Jerome Powell is some special guy that like is any different from you? That's just he's literally just some guy that's playing levers on an economic scale that is unimaginable to the average human being because we don't look at it every day. I'm not an expert. I'm not by any means saying I'm an expert, guys. Like I'm just playing this game because I feel like it's this ever evolving game that like this is the greatest realization I ever had when I started investing. It doesn't matter whether you have $10 million or you have $5. You both have the same problem. You both literally have the same problem. The guy with 10 million is no better than the guy with $10 because I have watched the guy with 10 million lose half of it making the wrong decision. I've watched Bill Ackman lose $30 billion on Valiant Pharmaceuticals. I watched Kevin O'Leary lose a shit ton of money in the Canadian oil sands and make terrible investments. I have watched every major investor lose money. It's a game. It is a literal game. And you just once you start playing it, it's fun. I love it. And I love it for that reason that I know that if I'm just willing to sit here and do more homework and do more due diligence than the guy next to me, I'm going to win this game because I'm malleable. Most people aren't even malleable, and that's why they lose because they're not willing to learn. Like I said, guys, I hated Bitcoin with a passion, but you have to accept that it's $1 trillion market capped currency at this point, and it's very likely going to revolutionize the way the monetary policy, the monetary system works, or it's the biggest scam in history. Bitcoin is literally the biggest scam in human history, or it's literally going to revolutionize the way we look at currency, and it's going to disrupt the entire financial system. And it's like, if you are not willing to wake up to that reality and you're just never going to look at Bitcoin because it's a scam, it's too expensive, it's too this, it's not a currency, it's not this, it's not that, you're being very ignorant to something that is happening so rapidly you can't keep up with it. And eventually you're going to have to wake up and smell the roses, guys. And like I said, if I'm making a speculative investment, I'm just saying like Bitcoin is at a level that you can't agree. Like I said, I'm not saying Bitcoin's a good investment. Okay. I'm not saying it's a good investment at all. I'm just saying don't be ignorant to something that has amassed $1 trillion market cap, because that is unimaginable amounts of money. I mean, let me put this in perspective because I don't even think people appreciate the value of Apple. Apple is worth so much money. The only thing comparable to that scope of value is Brazil's entire GDP for a whole year. And if you don't understand GDP, guys, we're having the wrong conversation. I'm just saying, like gross domestic product sales. So gross domestic product sales are the entire equivalent of, okay, I bought a good, there's a transfer of wealth. I transferred $100. That is part of the GDP. So that you add that $100 to the GDP, okay? Apple is worth the entire transactional GDP value of Brazil in a given, like, do you know how crazy that is? Like, you can literally only compare the scope of Apple's value to an entire country's GDP for a year. Like, that's what I hate when people argue the value of Tesla or Apple versus Amazon or Facebook versus Apple. It's like these things are so granular. You're an idiot to think you're going to understand it. I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. I'm like, I don't sit here and confidently say, I know how I can value Apple. I don't know how you value a company that literally works and operates at the level countries do. It is unimaginably insane. And we just sit around every day and we gawk about how, oh, $1 trillion is a normal thing now. Guys, in 2008, you really got to give Ben Bernanke a high five. Ben Bernanke in 2008 was the head of the Federal Reserve. Now it's Jerome Powell. But in 2008, the greatest financial crash that ever happened in history took place. It literally was so catastrophic. Greece is still recovering. Go to Greece and tell me you want to live in Greece right now. Their financial system is a disaster because of what happened in 2008. However, in 2008, one man alone named Ben Bernanke stood up and said, look, I think this is going to work. We're going to print trillions of dollars. In 2008, nobody ever imagined $1 trillion. Nobody, if you in 2008, if you told somebody Apple was going to be worth over $1 trillion, nobody would have even imagined that. It wasn't in the scope of reality. It just wasn't. None of us, no financial advisor, including Warren Buffett, I think could have imagined Apple or any company would be worth trillions of dollars. It just wasn't in the playing field. And then skip a decade later, and holy shit, we're in a whole nother world that never could have been imagined. So it's like we don't know what's happening here, right? Like it's pretty astronomical. Now, as much as I love talking about this stuff, guys, don't take it literally, because when you're making investments, you don't understand economics. You don't have to understand economics. You really don't. You just have to understand product, and you just have to understand margins. That's it. Like, you just have to understand like very simple concepts to invest into individual companies. It's like people like it's this two spectrum thing. It's like people want to take really simple things and blow them out of proportion and make them complicated. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking something that seems so insane, and I'm trying to talk about Apple in a way that's like, holy shit, how am I ever supposed to invest in Apple? I can't understand this. Kyle's like, these are $1 trillion things. No one understands $1 trillion things. You don't have to. You really don't have to. The only thing you have to understand is, are you going to go buy an iPhone when your iPhone dies? When your iPhone or your MacBook dies, are you going to go buy a new one? More than likely. Are you going to do that for the rest of your life? More than likely. It's highly unlikely that a company is going to disrupt the iPhone. I mean, that is going to be our generation's thing. So for the next 30, 40, 50 years, look at the revenue that Apple's generating. Look at those 30% margins. Yeah, their revenues aren't growing like crazy, like they could be, like they used to, or like Facebook's, but who cares? Like, they're making tens of billions of dollars. They could afford to buy Disney if they wanted to, for Christ's sakes. That value over the next 50 years severely justifies the $1 trillion market cap that none of us will ever truly be able to understand. So, I mean, don't overcomplicate investing either. Just understand very simple things, guys. If you don't want to play the game, don't go out and buy a IPOE. Don't go buy SoFi. Don't go buy the Robinhood or Coinbase IPO. Don't be buying Bitcoin. Just buy an S&P 500 index. Sleep easy at night knowing that you're likely to going to continue making a 20% return because we're at a pace of exponential growth in the market. And you're going to be just la-di-da. Live your life. Play with your kids. Have a great life. Or be an ADHD nut job and keep coming back to my YouTube channel. Cause guys, I ain't ever going to stop. We're going to be talking about this shit for the next 20 years, baby. We're going to be talking about crazy valuations in Bitcoin and where I'm investing all my money and playing this game, trying to outbeat the S&P. And God knows, maybe it blows up in my face one day, but damn it, we're going to keep coming back and I'm going to keep making these videos for as long as I don't burn out. So you guys are going to get to see how all of this unfolds. And God knows it has been a wild ride. Again, in 2020, in March, I lost my entire career. My full-time income blew up. I lost my whole job. I started almost from zero, and now I'm making about $30,000 a month. Holy shit, what the hell happened in a year? Damn it, I couldn't have done that working at McDonald's. I'm excited, guys. God, I am excited for the future. So I'm going to end it on that note. Welcome to the Passive Income Investor YouTube channel, guys. Let me know if I should do more live streams. Do you guys enjoy these rants, these obscure rants? I need an answer. Do you know Ms. Mag 822? I don't know who Ms. Mag 822 is. Anyways, guys. We're gonna do a meetup soon, guys. Any of you live in Toronto, once we get vaccinated, we're gonna do a Christmas meetup, and then we're flying out to Vegas in January. I'm gonna be updating you guys more on that. I would love to meet you guys in real life. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna make it happen. We all have to come together at some point and take this digital world into the real world, because #RichGang. I'm telling you guys, let's just be patient. Canada's a little behind the UK. Canada's a little behind the US on vaccinations. It really sucks. I know. But let's get vaccinated, and we're going to plan the December Christmas meetup for the #RichGang and everybody that's part of these groups. And then we're going to fly out to Vegas. We've already booked the trip. We're flying out to Vegas January, the third week of January of 2022. So we booked the Vegas trip. It's going to be happening. It's going to happen, guys. Stay cool. Stay awesome. And as always, I'll catch you tomorrow.